Name of this session is called Girl Power Work-Life Balance, which is something that we all need to work on. Kelly Mallozzi is the principal at Success in Print, an elected government official, a Connecticut District 6 council member. She is the mother of four, which is comprised of two sets of twins. She is the mentor mattress at Girls Who Print. And we are going to discuss the power of creating workable boundaries to get it all done. So I just, glanced over, all of these roles that you have, but could you let everybody know more about you, your work in your industry, in the industry, and your current role as the mentor mattress at Girls Who Print?
Thank you. Well, I'm also the 2023 Girly Award winner,
Oh,
which is
that's right. I forgot. Yeah, sorry.
probably the most important amount of validation of a 31-year career. And a lot of that obviously is thanks to you and a lot of other people, but that is a very, very important accomplishment for me. So having spent 31 years in sales, marketing, coaching, managing, everything to do with the printing industry, Girls Who Print is the place that I feel the most important work is being done today. And if that session out of Africa didn't make all of your little grinchy hearts grow 3 sizes today, I don't know what could, because the fact that the global reach of this movement and this mission is incredibly important. So my involvement in Girls Who Print is probably the most important thing that I'm doing from a work perspective today. And the mentor matching, for those of you who are participating, I'm sure you will all agree, it's changing lives. I have gotten messages from people who have jumped on airplanes to go meet their mentees. I have talked to people who have set up interviews for their mentees. I've seen mentees become mentors and mentors become mentees, right? It's an incredibly important way that we can kick that door open and hold the door open, right? Gone are the days of the scarcity mindset that we can be the only woman at the table, right? This has got to stop. The fact that we are still over here going, well, only 30% leadership positions, like what, I know the revolution is currently underway, but it has to change. And I certainly can't pretend to know how, but this is how, right? Today is how. And going forward is how, that we all are going to claw our way to those tables and on those boards and on those stages and on those covers of those magazines. So,
How do you define work-life balance?
so what I have come to understand recently in doing research about this is it, for me, it comes down to a question of who needs me the most right now. And so during my work day, and even sometimes in the evenings and sometimes on the weekends, work might be the thing that needs me the most. It might be a conversation with you, or it might be talking to a mentee, even if that's at 9 o'clock at night, or bless you, Sandy, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do this. But in a world of fully integrated, full human beings who have to earn money, but also need to find peace and joy and fulfillment in their lives, that is the secret sauce, is to be able to say, I work and I also am on a competitive pickleball team, or I work and I am, teaching religious ed on the weekends, or whatever it is. We have to be fully integrated. And that means to get rid of the aholic words, right? There is no one's going to revere you at the end of your life for having been a workaholic. But you might be remembered for the people that you mentored and the volunteer work that you did and the offices that you held and the people that you helped and the people that you made feel seen and belonging and remembered. So, I mean, I know that's kind of a lot of word salad there, but really it is about integration, right? It's about being able to celebrate the things that you do that bring you joy, whether that's a family or friends or hobbies or volunteerism, whatever it is. It's recognizing that there is a time and a place for work and there's a time and a place for play. And all the other things, activism, whatever it is that lights you up. It's about being able to manage your time well enough to be able to check all those boxes.
I want to be known as a funaholic, so I'm going to work on
Thank
that.
you.
I,
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
I'm gonna work on that.
A playaholic, right? A playaholic,
Playaholic.
a funaholic, a joyaholic.
I
Yes.
know. The other day I was asked, what do I do for fun? And I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't think of anything because I'm so immersed in keeping as a solopreneur
Right.
in the printing industry, to try to, keep things going and information topical and things like that, that it does take over my life. But I'm working on it. That's why I want to have
Good.
this session. Um,
Good.
all right. So you weren't, I mean, currently you own your own company as well, Success in Print, as we mentioned. You had a corporate life before that, too. In general, what challenges have you encountered in balancing your work and life responsibilities, and have they affected your career growth? I mean, even your ability to, have the time to find new customers or spend time with your current clients. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no question because I'll just be completely honest. I do view my role as mother as the most important role that I play, and I happen to have young children who are very demanding in terms of their situations. So yes, if I lived in a vacuum where I could dedicate 12 hours a day fully focused to my work, things would probably look a lot different for me. But Deborah, I also want to kind of reflect on my observations of other women in the workplace because when I was doing those almost 20 years in corporate America, I didn't have children. So I was able to watch the way my friends and colleagues who were working mothers, and there was some pretty stark contrast from the leadership perspective about how that was viewed. Um, and so that, to me, the idea that I saw everything from, well, you should just have it figured out was the viewpoint of the leadership to my friends who had young children at home. So there was zero flexibility or forgiveness in terms of sick days for children, childcare, crises, things like that. To another side of that was my production manager and customer service manager used to bring their children on days where the childcare fell through. They'd be wearing them on their backs. I mean, and so, that was a little bit of an accommodation or a flexibility, but you know, a lot of you out there might be going, well, that's not really the answer, right? So we have a massive kind of way to address how people are supposed to do multiple things at one time well. And that's why I keep going back to the idea of asking yourself who needs me the most right now, right? And that answer is going to be different for every person, and different at any different times of a day or a week or a month or a year, right? So
So women are often penalized in the workplace for being primary caregivers. And here are some examples. Women can be seen as less available and counted out of projects and assignments that could lead to career advancements and new opportunities. Companies can see women as less interested in taking on challenging projects that could be time consuming and require significant focus. Women can and are often excluded from after work networking, after event networking, and even business events in general and last minute gatherings, even at industry trade shows, if they require travel and multiple days away from home. So, not all women in the workplace fall into a primary caregiver role. So, what additional challenges have you discussed with women that you coach through Success in Print or that you mentor through Girls Who Print regarding balancing their work life responsibilities?
well, yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I hear when I hear you say that is how many events are still golf related. And that doesn't mean that there aren't lots of women who I love to play golf. But if deals are happening on golf courses and a woman doesn't golf, well, is she just missing out on that?
Well, what about the locker room? I mean,
That's right.
I mean, there's a lot of
That's
stuff
right.
that goes on in the locker room. Just saying.
And I'm just going to be 100% candid here. I'm sorry if anybody finds this really gross, but I just had this conversation with a woman the other day. How many times we've been invited to go to a strip club, right? And I'll be honest, I did once, right? Like this is really gross and I'm sorry, but the fact that those were acceptable, that bosses even thought it was okay to ask that and suggest it and almost require it. And I thought, well, I was saying, well, that happened 20 years ago. A woman told me just the other day, still happening, right? So again, I think as a society, we have to agree that there are some things that just need to stop. And my goodness, the microaggressions against women and even the pitting us against one another, right? We call it the mommy wars of like the women who have kids and the women who don't. If there's any sort of, again, feelings of scarcity there that then make a woman who doesn't have children, then more responsibility is heaped on her because she doesn't. And so more is expected of her. That's not fair either. So it's almost like we're penalized either way. You're expected to travel more. And believe me, we could talk a whole lot about time management, the mental gymnastics that it takes me to go away, and the amount of other people that I have to access to be in my place while I'm gone. My husband is amazing, but I have to access, my sister has to come here. I have to get friends and family involved just for me to go on a 3-day business trip. And that's not uncommon, for a lot of people. So it's really like either way, whether you have a family or not, there are injustices and problems happening that require us to set better boundaries and be more assertive when it comes to what we will and will not accept in a workplace.
In your view, what workplace policies or practices could better support women managing both professional and personal responsibilities? Have you seen or heard of any positive changes in workplace culture recently that have improved work-life balance for women specifically?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious ones are the flexibility, and maybe even being a little more supportive, or even some places have created on-site childcare facilities, which makes amazing strides. But there is something at play here that is a little more broad, which is the question of trust, right? The trust that a person is going to get their work done, the trust that a person is an adult who can properly manage their time, allocate the resources, and get the work done, even if that means they stay home a couple of days a week. Or Microsoft famously has a second shift, right? It's an unwritten rule that they work up until a certain time, and because the traffic situation is so abominable in Redmond, people go home, be with their families for a few hours, and then jump back on and do a couple of more hours of work in the evenings. Another example I can tell you about is unlimited PTO. My husband's company has an unlimited PTO policy, which holds people accountable and treats them like adults, that they can properly manage their time. But we might see other things like supporting wellness, and certainly even things like offering support with regard to financial fluency and things like that, right? Helping people manage their money. And we talked about this a few years ago, Deborah, but there is the idea that men are parents too. Why are we only talking about time off and grace for child sick days for the women? We should be granting those same benefits to men. I have a friend who just had a baby in June. Her husband is off the whole year. He works for a staffing company. He got 6 months of paternity leave. Incredible. Like this is, and again, you've always said Gen Z will save us. I think as younger generations start to assume these leadership positions, they're burning it down and building it back the way they want it to be built. And that includes treating men like capable parents who are also balancing work-life situations, right? So that is something I would love to see more of. Paternity leave, asking the dad, oh, your kid is sick. How did you handle it today? Right? So,
I mean, a lot of it is based on gender roles too. Like if you have a child and they're sick, who do they call first, you know?
Right.
So there's a dynamic with your partner, if you have one, that you're raising children with, to say, you know, I took it last time, it's your turn now. Or if you're a single parent, it is obviously a different thing altogether. You must be able to have the respect of your company to, like what you said, to be able to leave if you have to, help your child, and then when the appropriate time is there, go back and you know, pick up with the work, or have have it so that there's already an established chain of, if I have to leave, here's everything you need to make this phone call, or to order this thing that I need, and I'll check in with you later. And the same thing works if that other person or other people in the office are in the same situation. So there is a way to create a support network yourself. I'm just saying, without waiting for a company to do it for you. Obviously, they have to give you 6 months off for maternity or paternity leave. Canada does that too. I mean, it's amazing what goes on. Um, how can women best advocate for their needs during the interview process, and as life needs change or arise? For example, I didn't have a baby when I started, now I do.
Yeah, that I struggled with that when I was thinking about that, because it really does speak to the culture and the leadership of an organization. And sometimes we know that companies are putting on their best face just as much as the employee is in that interview process. And, you know, sometimes I think it might take going to third parties and looking at what a company is saying, what people are saying on Glassdoor, being able to have unfettered access to the employees to ask the questions, but simply to ask the questions, right? This is about preparation. If you need to know what you're supposed to do when your kid is sick, you better ask it in the interview, and pay very close attention to how they answer that question. And I do want to say too, Deborah, this isn't just about children. A lot of people out there, shout out to the people caring for elderly parents, right? And I know it's called the sandwich generation, but like that is just as important. I met someone on a train once who was going back and forth from Chicago to Detroit every week to care for her mother while working a full-time job. I mean, so this is, where the palpable sense that you get when you walk into a place, if you're even fortunate enough to do these interviews in person, look at these people. Do they, how, and be able to ask those questions. But again, it would behoove you to ask
Yeah.
what the treatment is, what the policies are, what do they offer? Maybe there are some benefits. I know some companies offer, a pre-tax deduction to pay for childcare. That's very specific, so you have to be very careful. But I think the sensibility that we've gotten from 8 o'clock this morning is you don't know unless you ask, and you have to be very clear in your mind for what your expectations are, because again, it's all about what's most important in any given moment.
As you know, I tried my hardest to find an HR person that was willing to or able to come on a conference and speak in general terms about HR policies, and it is almost impossible to make that happen, or I don't have the right connections. So I'm putting this out there to all of you. If you know anyone who's an HR consultant, or someone who wouldn't be seen as speaking for a company, we desperately need some guidance here. For example, I don't know. I mean, I do not have children, but does that, are they allowed to ask me that in an interview if I have children? I mean, and why are they asking me that? Do they ask men if they have children? Is that something I have to disclose? And you are disclosing things if you're asking, like, what's your maternity leave policy? It is very likely that that person's now thinking, already somebody who's more concerned about their situation than working here. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but you have to be realistic about it. There's if there's two candidates for a job and one of them is you already know is going to have additional responsibilities outside of the office, it goes back to all those reasons why somebody with children is already getting less out of their career in many ways. Um, it's it's something we have to learn how to deal with. And if, again, one more time, the plea, if you're an HR professional, consultant, anybody who's willing to speak on this topic in the most general sense, I understand we're not trying to lock you down to things. We really, really need a HR person in Girls Who Print who's
Maybe
not.
we can invest in that technology where you like black out their face and alter their voice or something, right? To make it like an anonymous thing. But somebody did suggest family law. That's a really good,
Yeah.
that is a good
Actually,
alternative.
that a lawyer would be great because then they would talk about this stuff. So,
Yeah.
Kelly, any final words on work-life balance before we move on to our next session?
Well, again, I think we've uncovered a lot of kind of the just the feelings that we have of being, not good enough and things like that. This really is about cultivating a sturdiness about again, not only your skills and what you bring to the table, but the fact that you have a right to live a life. You have a right to live a joyful life that is full of things outside of your work, hobbies, things like that. We have to be able to make room for all of those things because again, when all is said and done at the end of it, the work, while very, very important, it's a person's full life that we really want to cultivate. And I think we can all agree that fulfilled people make better colleagues, better leaders. Empathy, leading with empathy is probably the most important way to go for all of you leaders out there, and to think about, I mean, I guess we think of it in terms of accommodations, but it really is moms and women of all ages belong in your workplaces. They belong on your stages, on your covers, and in your boardrooms. Kids and all, right? All of it. It's
Yeah.
all there, and it all makes us stronger. So
I don't want us thinking about it as accommodations anymore. These are requirements. These are
yeah,
what we
thank you.
need in order to be successful in our careers. We need some help. And I just talk about help. I put out the bat signal, and we already have an HR person chiming in,
Yes,
willing to help. And Carrie from PICA stepped up too. She knows somebody. So
excellent.
HR information is coming for everybody. Thank you so much,
Thank
Kelly
you, Deborah.
Malazzi.